Bonjour everyone, Madame Blue here, and I am here with my first video for my black hair care series that I am starting. Side note, I mess with my hair a lot. I think I do that when I'm nervous. I say a lot, so we're going to try to get through this. So I don't know how many videos there will be. The first one is going to be about the science of hair. Not really too deep into the science of hair because, I mean, unless you're a cosmetologist or a trichologist or a dermatologist, you don't really need to know the specifics. But I just want to go over what hair is. So hair, first of all, is not alive. Like a lot of people refer to their split ends as dead ends. Technically, the entire hair shaft is dead. The part of the hair that has life is the root, so it's beneath the scalp. The hair that actually grows out of the scalp is not alive. It has no life in it. It's not alive. The hair is made up of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and sulfur. And I have to look up in the sky so that I can remember the acronym for that. And it's basically a bunch of electrons, neutrons, and protons, together that makes up the hair. I do have my notes here because I need to discuss what I feel is important. I'm not trying to make these videos long because if you're like me, you just don't have time to sit there and pay attention to somebody talking all day. I don't have time for it. So the hair is protein or keratin. It goes through a process called keratinization, and it's just a hardened protein. So that's why a lot of times when people do protein treatments, they can cause damage to the hair because it's like, first of all, the hair is protein. So if you're not lacking protein, you should not be doing protein treatments. So you would only do those, which I'm not going to go too in depth about that because that's a whole nother video, but you only do protein treatments if you have like a relaxer or lightener, you're messing with the chemical composition of your hair, then maybe you would need those. But the hair is already protein, so you don't need to add more to it unless you're taking it out. So there's 3 bonds in the hair that are relevant. One is the hydrogen bond, which is easily broken by heat, water, so that's why it controls the shape of the hair. So that's why when you wet hair, it can be easily manipulated into whatever shape you want it to be. And then when you dry it, that shape is temporarily that shape. Oh my gosh. So the hydrogen bonds there's a lot of them, but they're easily broken. So that's why it's not that big of a deal because there's so many of them. It does make up 1/3 of the structure of the hair. Okay, and the other bonds are the salt bonds. The salt bonds also make up about 1/3 of the hair's strength, and it's easily broken as well by water or heat. And then we have the disulfide bonds. Those bonds also make up 1/3 of the hair structure, and those are not easily broken. Those are only broken by chemical services. So like relaxers break down the disulfide bonds. So once those are broken, there is no repairing them. That's why when you get a relaxer, it's a permanent chemical change because those bonds have broken and you have permanently changed the structure and the shape of the hair. The hair strand is made up of 3 layers. One, the innermost layer is the medulla. We're gonna just skip that because that's not even, everyone doesn't even have a medulla, so it's just not relevant. The innermost layer that's important is called the cortex. It's the core of the hair, hence cortex. That is where everything happens. The cortex determines the color of your hair. The cortex, when you have chemical services, everything happens in the cortex. The outermost layer of the hair is the cuticle layer, which is also very important. So I'll insert pictures of that. So as you see from the pictures, A healthy cuticle layer is closed and compact. So let's just pretend like this is two little layers of the hair. Look, I don't even know if so a healthy cuticle lays like this. The little flaps of the cuticle are like this, and if they're healthy, they're down like this. If they're unhealthy, they're like this. They can be either closed, slightly raised, or just all the way up. So a closed cuticle gives hair its shine. And I say that because shine is basically how light reflects off of the hair strand. So if your cuticle is closed and compact, of course, light's just gonna be shining and bouncing off. That's gonna be looking real good. But if it's like this, and you just put light to it, it's gonna be okay, where's the light? It's hidden inside because your cuticles are like this. You don't want a cuticle like this. There are certain things that you do to the hair that opens the cuticle and that closes the cuticle. If you ever had hair color, especially red, 9 times out of 10, they rinsed your hair in cold water. Sometimes ice cold water, because they want to shock the cuticle and close it so that the color does not bleed out. So like also when you get your hair shampooed and it's time to rinse out the conditioner, usually cold water is used as well to close the cuticle. Again, when you go to blow dry it, it's going to be opened from the heat. Again, you have to close it. So me personally, a few other people, but me personally, when I'm straightening the hair blow drying the hair after I get it dry, I go through it again with the cold setting to close the cuticle. And also, so the cuticle is important because one, it protects the cortex. If you have an unhealthy cuticle that's all open and not closed like it should be, then you're pretty much allowing anything to penetrate through the cuticle layer and get to the cortex layer, and you don't want bad things in the cortex layer. That's pretty much it concerning the science of hair. Again, I didn't get too technical because why? But I did want to discuss the structure of the hair just to give people an idea of what hair is. When it comes to deciding what products to use, deciding anything regarding your hair, what's important are 4 things. It is going to be the texture, which is what we will discuss next, the porosity of the hair, the elasticity of the hair, and the density of the hair. And the density is just important because to me it determines the type of hairstyles you can get. For example, those 4 things are important. Now, porosity is the ability for your hair to absorb. Porosity is how porous something is. So like think of a sponge. Like you wet a sponge and it's like, did you even wet it? Like it's very rare that a sponge is like soaking wet. Like as soon as you wet it and you take it out of the water, it's like, wow, just dried up. Have high porosity hair, that means your hair is very porous and it absorbs moisture fairly easy. The flip side to that is it absorbs moisture easily and it also releases it easily, so it does not retain moisture. Average porosity is what you want. That's ideal. Low porosity is when your hair is, it's harder for the hair to absorb. Low porosity means it's harder for the hair to absorb moisture. So it's usually resistant hair. You can kind of equate it to coarse hair. We'll get into that later. So if you have hair that's resistant, then that means it's harder for your hair to absorb anything. So you have to find ways to open up the cuticle to get those things in. Now, once you get the moisture or whatever it is you're trying to get into your hair strand, once you get it in, then it usually locks in pretty good. The problem is getting it into your hair strand. So high porosity hair is bad, but over time your hair can become more porous, especially if you're getting chemical services. Chemical services strips away at the cuticle layer. It affects your hair sometimes in a negative way. That's why when you get certain chemical services, you have to go on certain conditioning treatments, sometimes protein treatments depending on the service, to get the cuticle back to where it needs to be. So that's important, and texture is important, and elasticity, I'll get to that. Elasticity is the ability for your hair to stretch and then revert back to its normal position without breaking. I can't really do the test on here because I just pretend like this is my real life hair strand. So if I was to pull it and it stretches, however far it stretches, it should be able to go back without breaking. If you pull it and it breaks, then that's bad. Those are things you need to look for when you're doing like chemical services. Like if someone's getting a bleaching service or a highlight service and they have a weak elasticity, then that hair, I mean, if your elasticity is gone, your hair is pretty much fried. If you've ever had your hair like gum-like and it just kind of like clumps together, it's just real stringy, real stretchy, that means it has a weak elasticity, and you can do protein treatments and minimal tension, but that hair is kind of really damaged. So those are important because that determines the products that you're going to use. That is all I wanted to discuss as far as the science of hair and what hair is. If you have any other questions, please let me know in the comments. You can slide in my DMs and let me know. Hit me on any of my social media. I am Madame Blue everywhere. Styles by Madame Blue on Facebook, madamebleuthestylist on Instagram, Madame Blue on Twitter, Madame Blue here on YouTube. So don't forget to subscribe, like, share this video, and let me know if you have any other questions, anything I missed, you know, and look out for the next video. Again, this is going to be a series that I created, which I did kind of do an introduction on it. So basically I created this series because I'm tired of black women being uneducated about our hair. I have a lot of people sit in my chair and they just know absolutely nothing, and I'm sick of it. So hopefully I provided you some type of knowledge. If not, sorry. Let me know if you have any questions. Look out for the next video. Thank you.